Hello friends, Koolio here, and welcome back to the channel. Today guys, we're going to be jumping into DISLYTE and checking out the new 3.0 update and talk about some of the major changes to the game, as well as some positive kind of indicators that the game is heading towards a much more free-to-play friendliness. So if you guys enjoyed today's video and want to see more videos on DISLYTE, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're actually going to talk about the patch notes, and we're going to kind of go through and break down some of the more major changes to the game and give you guys my overall opinion on it and kind of break down why I think the game is taking positive steps towards a very, very free-to-play friendly future. So here's the thing about the update. I'm not going to go through and talk about every little thing. I'm going to kind of talk about more of the highlights, and then we'll go through and talk about why I think there's a lot of free-to-play friendliness coming down the line. So first up is there's a couple of new events going on in the game right now, the Treasured Kingdom event and the Rock and Puzzles event. Now I don't really want to go too much in depth with these because they both end before the game actually globally launches. But if you're somebody that's actually playing the game right now, some of the more highlighted kind of points with these events is once you get to, for every 50 steps, Boom Boom advances down the Treasure Kingdom event, you get a 5/6 star flawless relic type of your choice, which is huge. It's so good. The other thing is the Rock and Puzzles event. There's just a lot of golden records and other fairly decent stuff that you can get, and it's mainly around the consumption of stamina. So you do actually have to play the game to get more attempts for the Rock and Puzzles event. The other thing is they've added a share function, which does give you a free 100 diamonds or 100 Nexus crystals every single week. And then the first kind of major thing I want to talk about is the new Wave Booster item. Because this Wave Booster item is now available to purchase for a total of 250 crystals in the plaza. But the issue that I have with this, though, is the Wave Booster only lasts for an hour and gives you a 100% increase to the waves that you get. The thing is I've seen that they've done, I don't know if it's like weekly or bi-weekly, they've done events where there have been wave boosters for, I think, almost like 12 to 24 hours. So it's been kind of a weird nerf that way. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about it if you guys are playing the game, what you think about these new items, because they actually do replace some special rewards that you get for first ranking up your first 5 or 6 star unit. Then there's a shopping event. I'm not going to talk about that. And then they've added the tactics exams for Hyde, Unis, and Cecilia. Basically, that's just more free crystals. They've got some quick promote optimizations, name card effects, club optimizations. The one thing I do want to talk about that I think is a really major change to the game is that silver records are no longer a thing. You can no longer obtain silver records in the game. Any silver records for rewards moving forward are either deleted or replaced with other items. But if you do have silver records right now, you can still use them, but then once you use them, they're gone forever. And I actually think this is a very positive change to the game, and the reason why is we get just so many Starmon just by playing through the game or through events or achievements or quests that the units that you get, the espers that you get from the silver records are just completely useless. They really are. It's just a waste of spending resources trying to upgrade them when you can just use your Starmon instead. Some of the other stuff I want to talk about is the club-related adjustments. Specifically, they've adjusted the capacity from 50 down to 30. So I am going to create a club. I have a lot of people asking me about it, but I'm going to announce the club on the official global date. So if you're interested in joining my club, make sure to keep an eye out for that video, which will come out on May 10th, because I'm going to do first come, first serve type of thing. The other thing is they've also decreased the XP needed to perform upgrades. So I think that overall is just gonna be really good, specifically for new clubs that are gonna be opening up on the global launch. They've also added, they made some changes to the beginning summons, nothing super crazy. What are some of the other stuff I wanna talk about? Okay, so this is all of the Esper balance changes. Now we're gonna jump into that in just a little bit, but we're actually gonna go and talk about a few of the other little things that they've adjusted, which I think are really cool. And I honestly don't know if maybe I just didn't notice it before. Maybe it's been there for a while, but there are some pretty cool, unique differences that they've made to the actual characters themselves. Nothing like super big. But before, when you actually went to go look at a character and see what type of character they are, it either said DPS, tank, support, and disabler. Now they've just changed the words to be, I think it's like fighter, controller, support, and then there was one more, and I just can't remember. Oh, defender. So I think they've just kind of made some tweaks to give people a better idea or feel on the type of gameplay style they can expect from specific espers. The other thing, and I really don't remember this being here, but there's now a new icon. Maybe it was there before, maybe I just didn't notice it, but it looks like we will have skins in the future of the game. And let me know down below if that's been a feature there before, and I've just never noticed it, and I'm just barely noticing it now. Anyway, so that's kind of just a couple of the other little things. There's been a lot of adjustments with this new patch, and I think they've done a very good job moving forward for the future of the game, specifically when it comes to the balance changes for the espers. The cool thing about it is you absolutely do not need legendary espers to be freaking good at this game. And this shows us why. So there are a couple of legendary espers that have been either boosted or adjusted, but there's mainly been a ton of epic espers that have had their gameplay styles just completely changed, and they've become way better than they were before. And so we're gonna kind of go through and break down a couple of these balance changes and some of my thoughts on those. So first up is Cecilia or Isis. Now her old ability, when Cecilia died, she would heal all of her team members for 15%, okay? So that's the first kind of major change that ends up happening, because in the new form of that ability, when Cecilia dies, she revives all dead allies with HP equal to 15%, and then her healing factor actually changes to grants a shield to all team members equal to 50% of their max HP for 1 turn. So I think the main reason why they ended up kind of changing this and swapping these passives a little bit is they wanted it to basically be like, there were teams that were kind of set up to make it so like your teammates or like your espers would automatically die like either fairly quickly, and then Cecilia would die and revive them. I think with the changes that they're making here, they're making it so that when Cecilia dies, it benefits the espers that are still currently, or it's a little bit weird, but more what I'm trying to get at is it allows your espers to kind of live a little bit longer to deal with the damage that probably wiped them out in the first place. So just a little bit more long-term support than I think it's just like an instant heal, because the instant heal I think is just, it wasn't very good. I think the actual shield will be a lot better. And then Yin Yuao, or the Queen Mother. Now this is actually one I haven't seen very often. Hers isn't like the biggest or most major change. It basically just makes it so that there's a higher chance to stun the enemy. So it goes from a 50% chance to 75. Not really that big. But on the ability too, she was immune to disables plus 10% AP per debuff cast on any ally. This is actually one of the first major changed abilities. Now she's still immune to disables, but she removes a random debuff other than immobile from all allied espers at the start of each turn and heals them for 5% of their max HP, and then increases AP by 20% when an allied esper receives a debuff. I think that's freaking huge, to be honest. I'm very excited to see this used specifically in PvP against teams with lots of debuffs, because like honestly, like at the start of each turn and heals them for 5% of their max HP. That's a pretty dang good long-term support ability. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to affect some of like the meta, and whether or not I'm going to see her more often in the PvP stages. Now the next one I want to talk about is Poseidon. I'm specifically really excited for this change because I just got Poseidon, and I feel like this makes her a much more viable defensive type target. I think the biggest or the most major change that you're going to see between the two of these is the increase of damage. If the target is unbuffed, increases the damage by 50%. So it goes from 120% of attack to 170%. So I think that's going to give a really strong single target DPS attack for her. And honestly, there really isn't a lot of really good single target DPS characters, I feel. So I think that's a really good positive change. And then the other one too is just a slight adjustment to how much damage she does to targets that already have buffs on them. Because for her ultimate ability, when she attacks, the damage is reduced by a certain amount depending on how many buffs the target has. Well, that amount that it's reduced has actually been decreased. So she'll actually deal more damage to the enemy using her ultimate ability. So again, I think that's really good. The next one is Alexa or Aphrodite. This is probably the biggest, I think this is the biggest change I've seen out of all the espers. Now, her previous ability 2 attacks all enemies 3 times, dealing damage equal to 35%, and then the last strike has a 50% chance of dispelling 1 buff from each enemy. And then it had an ascension on top of that. Each strike has a 50% chance of dispelling 1 buff from each enemy. This has been completely changed. It's a completely new ability, and I think she's going to be one of the more powerful healers in the game. So what she does is now she balances all allied espers' HP ratios. If a target has the Kiss of Nightingale buff, it restores 20% of their max HP. That's crazy. Like, that's insane to me. I'm really interested to see how this is going to break down, because I feel like that could be a very, very powerful ability, or it could be one that could kind of screw up your team. Because if you have like a lot of like low health units and then like maybe one support that's got like a lot of health, boom, once you balances, it's gonna drop that unit's health. So it should be pretty interesting. I'm excited to see how that's gonna work. And then the Ascension form now is, and reduces all ability cooldowns by 1 turn. That's also another really, really big part on top of it. But such a major change to make her more of a support character than the damage dealing character that she was before. Next up is Falcon or Horus. He also had some pretty major changes as well. Now, his previous attack, Horus's attack, marks the target with an Eye of Horus for 1 turn. Attacks by enemies with this mark have a 60% chance of being countered attack. Now, the biggest change between this and the new one is I think they just kind of worded it differently. So basically how they worded it is allied espers other than Horus have a 60% chance of counter attacking. So, and the other big major change too, between this one and the next one, is he actually has a 15% chance of using his ultimate ability as a counterattack upon taking a hit. So he no longer has the 60% chance counterattack, or I think maybe they've just kind of did it so it seemed a little bit, more clear to you on who's actually counterattacking. But now he also has a 15% chance of using his ultimate ability on the enemy, this is the ultimate ability right here, which they've also kind of increased a little bit. So before it says deals damage to all enemies equal to 100% of attack with a 100% chance of inflicting attack down for 2 turns. The biggest chance that they've added to this is they've increased the overall damage by 15% of Horus's lost HP. So I think he's marked down as a defender character. So he's a character that you're probably going to want to max out as much HP as possible, because 15% of Horus's lost HP, that will add a significant amount of damage if you can build him correctly. The next one, and by the way, most of these are epic espers, okay? Like Horus is an epic esper, and the next one, Dozier or Adam, is also an epic esper. So they've made them a lot more, either they made them clearer or they've made them a lot better, I think. So it's definitely going to help out free-to-play players. Now, I don't really want to go through and do Adams as much. The biggest difference with here between his ability from the old one and the new one is they've basically made it so now it just straight up gives him 10% defense and 5% hit without you having to ascend it. I think that's the biggest major change here, but he does get a bonus turn upon the stacking of 10 bull rages. So that's like the biggest change to his overall ability too. And then for his ability 3, deals damage equal to 80% plus 120% of defense to an enemy, inflicts taunt for 2 turns, as well as restores 5% of his max HP. The biggest change between this is damage is increased by 50% if Adam has already gained 10 bull rage stacks. So kind of increasing his overall damage, kind of making his resistance a little bit easier for players to get, and the free turn as well for once he reaches his 10 bull stacks. The next one is Lu Yi or Dai Yi. This one was a pretty big change as well. Attacks an enemy 3 times, dealing damage equal to 55%. With the Ascension, has a 40% chance of inflicting Seer for 2 turns. They've completely gotten rid of the Ascension on this one, and they've actually moved it over to his ability 2. So his new one is just basically these two combined together. You don't need the Ascension anymore. Now his ability 2, damage dealt to the target ignores 10% of their defense per debuff the target carries, has actually been changed immensely. Now it's each attack has a 15% chance of dealing true damage equal to 10% of the target's max HP, up to the maximum 100% of Dai Yi's attack. So you're going to want to pump their attack up as much as you possibly can to get as much damage out as possible. And then when you ascend it, increases the trigger chance to 30% upon dealing a crit. So very big major change to this character as well. I think making him a much more viable damage dealing character. The next one is Anisadora or Pandora, just a change to the ability 3. The old one grants speed up to the whole team for 2 turns and inflicts Pandora's box on all enemies for 2 turns. Removes 50% of current HP from enemies and inflicting stun for 1 turn at the start of their 2nd turn. So I think what they've done is they've actually kind of changed it to make it seem a little bit more clear. So this one's grants speed up to the whole team for 2 turns and inflicts Pandora's box on all enemies for 2 turns, removing 50% of the current HP from enemies and inflicting stun for 1 turn. At the start of their 2nd turn is when she deals the 50% damage to them and inflicts a stun. And then a little bit of a bonus on top, gains a bonus turn. So hopefully that I feel like they try to make that a little bit more clear with that, but anyway, whatever. Next up is Pritzker or Mimir. He actually I feel like he becomes a much more viable control-based character. The big difference between his ability 1 and ability 2 is he no longer silences, he just straight up stuns them. So I think that's great. So instead of them being able to use their ability 1 and not their ability 2 or 3, is they're just straight up stunned for a turn. They can't use any abilities. And then the final one is when Mimir's turn ends, if an enemy is disabled, then Mimir will blow the Galar horn to extend the enemy's ability cooldown by 1. Now it's when Mimir inflicts a debuff, if any target is immobilized, all of the target's ability cooldowns are increased by 1 turn. So there you go. Next up is Dahlia or Calypso. Now her the ability 2, old, attacks an enemy 3 times, each hit dealing damage equal to 50% of attack with a 70% chance of inflicting speed down for 2 turns. The biggest change is they've added it so it inflicts a freeze additionally. So if an enemy is already afflicted with the speed down, it inflicts freeze additionally. So I think that really works well with her character. And then her ability 3 also just increases their attack along with the rate ups, or with the crit rate up. So. And then there's a couple of different bug fixes, and then they do give us an update preview that I'm very excited for. In the next update, which I think the next update's probably going to be for the global launch, they're going to be introducing some new espers, and so keep your golden records and your gems for that, as well as new events. There will also be a big event featuring the Lone Star Ollie story and an exciting Hollow Battle gameplay where clubs get to fight one another. So very excited for that new PvP battle, and I'm very excited because it sounds like they're adding in story events for the game, so I'm super pumped to see how that's going to turn out. So there you guys go, kind of my breakdown of patch 3.0. I think it's a great patch. It definitely gives us a bright future for the game, and if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like this in the future, then make sure to like button and subscribe to the channel. Well friends, my name's Koolio, and I'll see you next time.